Greetings everyone. So this video is gonna be about Doctor. It's a guide on how to play him, sort of. At first, this first clips we're gonna aim for beginners and intermediate players that don't really know how to play him yet. Perhaps you just got him and want to know and to have some tips and stuff like that, or type of build that you can try and etc. I'm not claiming to be a pro. I'm just a veteran, and I would like to help some new players to get to know a style that suits them best. And about his efficiency on rank 1, I'm gonna talk about this more with a little bit more in depth later on in the video. So let's just start with beginners things first. His power consists in inflicting madness onto his opponent, which can be done in treatment mode either by shocking them or having them on your static field that spreads all over the area of your tower radius. Bear in mind though that if you move on treatment mode, you will move slightly slower, so walking around with it tends to be a bad idea unless you have a plan, unless you're playing a build that benefits from it. So Madness 1 doesn't really do much besides making them scream. It gives them 33% chance of a skill check appearing on random location, and then 66% for Madness 2 and 99% on Madness 3. Madness 2 and 3 causes survivors to experience Doctor hallucinations, which can be seen by the Doctor as an allied aura if the survivor is in a Madness 3 and with the right add-ons as well. In Madness 3, survivors cannot perform actions like healing, sabotage and repairing, cleansing totems, or use any items. Besides that, shocking a survivor makes it so that he cannot perform any interactions for 2.5 seconds, like dropping pallets and vaulting, for example. In this clip, I'm playing some middle rank Survivor with Friends group with no perks, just to prove the point that you can reach purple or red ranks pretty easily as a Doctor. You just have to play your cards right, because if you can 4K without add-ons or perks, pipping is not much of a challenge. Also in this clip I'm not using much of my power because it's a power that has very limited use without add-ons, and I'll explain more about it later. And since this first part is more for beginners, I will give you guys the time on the description so you can skip it if you want. Okay, so at first notice that I don't go into treatment mode right away, and I do that because putting survivors on Madness 1 is mainly for a detection tool. It doesn't do much, and it gets better if you use it later on lower ranks. A lot of the times finding your first survivor is not a problem, plus it gives the opportunity to good survivors to get close to your terror radius and get into Madness 1 so they don't scream at a time that they don't want to scream. Here I could have maybe stopped Dwight from dropping the pellet, but considering it's a god pellet, getting it down early provides more value than taking a little bit of more time to get the first hook, so it's better to get the god pallet down as quickly as I can in this case, because this pallet being up makes it so that this area is pretty much a safe zone for good survivors. At this point I heard that Jan is being worked on, but since I find the survivor instantly, there is no reason to waste Madness 1 scream. I just hit her and go back to hook the down survivor. Now that he's hooked, I use my power so that I can find a survivor as quickly as possible, and thankfully for me, Survivor Friends groups tend to be a bit cocky, so this Nia gets down fast. Having hooked Nia once more, I go out into treatment mode to find them. At this point, I have the option to choose who I'm going to follow, since I know where they all are. After hooking Dwight, I go back to the basement because they will run for the save, because they have to. I down Nia to make them waste time and go after Meg, because I can't know for sure that Nia doesn't have the S, and getting the S at this point would lose me the game. After hitting Meg here, I know she's pretty much down already since the check palette is wasted, and she doesn't have enough time to go to the other one that I didn't break early. Before hooking her, I tried to hit Dwight to see if he would mess up. It didn't happen, but the fact that he was here wasting time is good enough for me. Now here he just threw the game completely, because even if he wanted, the pallets on this area were wasted early on. So I guess he just gave up. At this point it just snowballs and they're forced to make mistake after mistake, leading to a 4K. Okay, now going for some tips. One very important one is that you can pull survivors just by being on treatment mode and pressing M1 very quickly. It will count as a pull, and of course you cannot hit them, but you can pull them when they're doing some things like unhooking and vaulting and etc. About the shock ability, it's not very useful to stop loops, to be honest, on most cases against good survivors, because in strong loops the fact that you slow down while you charge your shock means that the survivor has the option to keep running to the loop once more, making the power useless in this regard. But in some situations, it's worth trying to use it, because at the right place, at the right timing, it can stop survivors on their tracks. For me, if you're playing on lower ranks, the best add-on by far is the calm ones, because it messes up their timing and their guidance. You know, they need to listen to your terror radius at the beginning of the game when they're learning and etc. on lower ranks. So making so that they're unsure of what's happening all the time, it can harm them. The add-on calm combined with like monitor and abuse and distressing can give survivors a hard time figuring out what's happening. Now I'm currently ranking up because I've stopped playing for a long time, 1.5 years I think. I was a doctor main. Now I'm using a combination of restraint and discipline. Restraint for the increased duration of the doctor illusions, so I can find them easier. And discipline for the increase on the shock therapy, because it combos well with the build that I'm doing, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit later. Now I'm going to give some beginners good builds that you guys can use to find yourself on how you want to play the killer. But bear in mind, I really advise you guys to test things out. Okay, don't stand locked on this builds that I'm going to pass now. Okay, so on this clip I'm using mainly distressing combined with monitor and abuse and calm add-on, making my terror radius very weird for the survivors end, making so that they have trouble reading the situations correctly. Now combining these add-ons and perks, I added one of my favorite perks, which is Dark Devotion. A perk that makes it so when I hit my obsession, I give it a terror radius of 32 meters and make myself undetectable, reducing my terror radius to 0. Here I'm lucky enough to find my obsession right away, and since I haven't shocked him yet, most of them don't know what killer I am. And for all they know, I'm probably still chasing my obsession, giving me a window of opportunity to abuse my 0 terror radius and make some sneaky plays. That's why I hit him and switch the targets as quickly as possible. That play with Jake led me to a grab, which would have never been an option without Dark Devotion. At this point they will have to play with a lot more attention and a lot of doubt in their minds on what exactly is happening. Another good idea would be to combine perks like Play with Your Food, Save the Best for Last, Make Your Choice, Pop Goes the Weasel, because it allows you to get value shocking your obsession, for example, and leaving it, because by doing that it will get stacks for Play with Your Food, making you faster, and Save the Best for Last also can make some good plays, because they usually don't expect it. In this case, Make Your Choice would add extra pressure, giving even the possibility to down your obsession with one hit, therefore losing less stacks from Save the Best for Last. With such build, you should be hooking a lot of people, so Pop Goes the Weasel would help you to get gens under control if you choose to defend the right part of the map. This last beginner-ish build that I'm gonna show is a slower one, and it works wonders on ranks that are not purple and red. It consists on using discordance to know if they're grouped, to shock more than one survivor with a single shock. In my opinion, this beginner build works very well with add-ons like Iridescent King, which is not that easy to find, but it's very fun when you do, and High Stimulus Electrode, making so that you can have a bigger shock area, making it easier to get more than one person with it. In this build, even though Pop Goes the Weasel works, Ruin is probably a better option, because at first you won't be hooking as much as other builds, and this could lead to a potential gen rush situation and demanding a colder blood from the killer to make the right decisions. Now, this build that I'm using currently at purple ranks is Pop Goes the Weasel, Dark Devotion, Overcharge, and Sloppy Butcher. The reason why I'm not using Ruin is because I found that survivors on higher and higher ranks, and I've been getting red ranks quite a lot, they tend to find Ruin extremely quickly, and sometimes it's just a waste of a perk. So my playstyle consists in hitting them as many times as I can so I can apply Sloppy Butcher and use the add-ons that I'm using currently, that is Restraint and Discipline, so I can try and make the Overcharge skill check a little bit more difficult on them without having to commit too much on a build that relies only on them missing skill checks. Many times Pop Goes the Weasel has helped me, and Dark Devotion like completely changed the game. Now, having said all that, is the Doctor viable at rank 1? And by viable I mean being the power role, making survivors react to you and not the opposite, which is how the game should be, considering that it's a 1v4 and the pace of the game should be dictated by the killer. But anyways, the answer is sadly no. In its current state, because you can't apply consistent amount of pressure, then a good, strong, efficient survivor team would probably be able to apply much greater pressure on you, making therefore you react to them. And this is what people at rank 1 at red ranks tend to do, because the problem with Doctor is, on its current state, you cannot avoid being looped for long, and sometimes you cannot choose not to chase a survivor. Sometimes it's pretty much a given. If you lose that chase, you pretty much lost the game. And before you think, oh, but that's like this for every killer, isn't it? No, it isn't. Just take a strong nurse or a spirit, for example, or even some more sneaky killers like the Wraith, the Pig, or something like that, or even Ghostface, for example. They have a way to just start the chase and stop it, you know, at least get a hit on the survivor before he can get to a pallet. And it doesn't happen with the Doctor, and even when they are at a pallet, your power does not really help much if they're good. Therefore, at rank 1 or red ranks, even though I'm not currently on red ranks, I played a lot with them even now at purple, and back then I was a Doctor main when playing a killer, and I was at rank 1. I remember exactly how frustrating it is. So at rank 1, you in its current state will be at survivor's mercies, at the mercy of getting lucky enough not to get a very good survivor team that is very optimal, and if you do, you will get bullied. There's not much to do about it. You will get frustrated, and that's pretty much it, how this game is gonna go for you. It's gonna be very frustrating, very irritating, and it's not how a game is supposed to be. So don't beat yourself if you're getting bullied in higher ranks. As a Doctor, you don't have many tools to counteract that. It's probably not your fault, and that's why, as far as I'm concerned, they're going to change the killer in a month or two, which I'll quite possibly be making another guide to compare how it was and how it's going to be in the future. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope it was useful somehow. Leave a comment if you want to say anything. If there's anything specific that you want to know, leave in the comments and I will answer as fast as I can. And I made the best that I could with the time that I currently have. Leave a like if you think that this video was useful, and subscribe so you don't lose any of the upcoming videos. And you may ask for a video if you want on the comment section down below as well. So thank you for watching. I hope you found this video interesting, and it was a pleasure.